Okay, it's an absolute pleasure to be here, standing in front of the present and the future of the specialty coffee industry in Europe. So thank you very much for having me. I hope you learn a lot this week from the education tracks, from the lectures, and actually just from talking to each other and sharing your own private, the knowledge that you've gained from your own work experience. I hope you make a lot of friends, and I hope that you take the time to talk to people on your left and right side every time you're in a lecture or in the restaurant, and learn from people, make friends. And if you do this well, then wherever you go in Europe, you're guaranteed to find good coffee, because this is Europe represented here. Could everyone hear me okay? Yeah, awesome. So we're talking coffee shop economics, which is an exciting title, and I think it's relevant to most people in this room. It's about if you're a barista, it's going to increase your understanding of how a coffee shop works and what's important. It will help you to prioritize what you're doing in the coffee shop. If you're a roaster or you're a machine manufacturer, it's going to help you understand what it is that your main customers, what the challenges that they face are, and how you can better serve them. And if you're a cafe owner, or if you're an aspiring cafe owner, then it will help you to assess the viability of particular sites. If you see a site and you want to choose whether to take it on as a cafe, it will help you to make that decision. It'll also help you assess the performance of your business as it stands. I'm clicking on my laptop and here as well, so if the slides are not catching up with what I'm talking about, please let me know. So I need a show of hands here. Who thinks it's important for a coffee shop to be profitable? Excellent. Okay, now everyone with their hands up, who really at the bottom of their souls believes it's important for a coffee shop to be profitable? Put your hands up. Yeah. Excellent. That's what I thought. So anyone who put their hands down after the first time, that was me about 10 years ago. I was always under the impression that all we had to do was make really good coffee, that the coffee quality would speak for itself, that people would come and just because they knew there was good coffee there. I was actually incredibly naive, and you learn a lot in 10 years from doing business in all sorts of different sort of cafe shapes and sizes. So what we're going to talk about today is what coffee shop profitability actually is, and why it's important for your business to be profitable. So I just want to clarify that profitability is not a dirty word, okay? Being profitable is essential for everything I've listed here and much more. It will help you grow your business, okay? Create new opportunities. So if you want to expand a kitchen, if you want to start another site, you need to be profitable in the first place. If you want to invest in people, so anyone who's been sent here by their company has been sent hopefully by a profitable business who can afford to send you, they're investing in you. It's incredibly important to develop baristas and people on a professional level. Buy new toys. So if you look around the camp, you'll see some very exciting equipment from our water sponsor BWT through the filter brewers with Bun and Marco, and then all the espresso machine suppliers. They've brought the latest kit, some great toys that you're going to want to buy afterwards. So you need to be profitable in order to invest in this technology. Is this coming through clearly? Yeah, I guess it feels like I'm speaking into the mic and they're not speaking into the mic. But anyway, I'll keep on going. Also, paying back loans. Obviously, you to start a cafe, you need to take out a bank loan. You need to invest your own money. You need to get a return on this money so that you can justify the expense. So this is what profit and loss is all about. It's about revenue and expenses. Revenue is obviously your sales from coffee and food. Expenses are your staff costs, your rent, your cost of goods sold, which is your ingredient costs, so coffee, milk, sugar, etc., and your overheads, overheads being things that are required to keep your business operating. So maintenance costs, utility bills, accounting. And the idea is that your revenue is greater than your expenses and you have operating profit. So we use a model like this. It's very simple, but we have revenue at 100%. And then we have these sort of standard metrics for labor, rent rates, taxes, cost of goods sold, and overheads. And the idea is that with each of these metrics, if you keep your costs within line, so within the 30% market sort of bracket for labor, then you will achieve an operating profit. Okay. Now these change slightly. This is a general model. It's going to change slightly. So if you've got a coffee cart, your labor cost might be higher, but your rent is going to be lower. So there is some variation, but use this as a sort of benchmark. So this is how we can use the model to assess the viability of a site. Now, I want you to imagine you're walking down a street and you want to start a cafe, and it's a street in a neighborhood that you really like, and you see this empty unit, and it's up for let, and the unit is perfect. It's in the perfect location, it's the perfect size, it's the perfect shape. You know there are people in the area who want to drink your delicious coffee. So how do you know that you can make a viable, profitable business out of this? And it's actually pretty simple, sort of back of the envelope maths. We simply take, so if you call up the agent and you say, what is the rent on that unit? And the agent tells you rent rates and so on is £20,000. Then what you need to do is, you know that your rent is going to be 20% of your revenue. So you divide 20% by the rent and you have £100,000 in revenue. Okay, it's a really simple calculation. So you know that you need to be making £100,000 in this unit to get an operating profit of about £15,000. The question is, are there going to be enough people in that area to make £100,000 worth of profit? Are you going to be able to sell enough coffee in the hours that you're going to be open? Will you be able to staff it for £30,000 over the course of a year? These are the questions that make the decision slightly more challenging. But let's talk a bit more about this. So we want to know what actually is a profitable coffee business, because it's a given that your revenue needs to be greater than your expenses. Okay, it's just simple. If your expenses are greater than your revenue, then you're not going to be in business for very long. But we're not here just to pay a certain amount for a product or to make a product and then sell it for slightly more. What's important for us is that the product that we're selling, that the business we're creating, is closely aligned with our vision and our values for what we want to create. So we're going to explore this a little bit more. But just to illustrate, so for me, a profitable business is one where I can realize my personal and professional vision and values for that business. Okay, so I want to be able to source and pay for high quality, delicious coffee. I want to be able to pay a fair and sustainable price for that coffee. I want to be able to afford the best equipment to work with. I want to be able to invest in my staff. I want to be able to give customers an amazing sort of customer experience. And I want to continue to grow and challenge in this business. So these are all the things that are important for me. And for each of you, you're going to have to work out what your vision and what your values for your shop are and how you're going to execute that. The challenge is when your vision and your values don't align with something that's operationally going to be viable. So, it's like, what if you want to buy a £100,000 espresso machine and then you're only going to sell £100 worth of coffee on a day? It's not going to work as a business. So you've got to think through what's going to make it viable. So I want to describe a situation where the product and service is often contradictory to the aim. Okay, and this is maybe a little bit challenging, but it's actually the brew bar. So I had an experience while traveling went to a well-regarded cafe, and the experience I had made me think about what we're doing in specialty cafes. The question is, are we serving ourselves as an industry, or are we serving our customers? So I went in, sorry, I just caught up the slides. I went into a cafe the other day. I ordered a hand-brewed filtered coffee. I was excited to try it. It was from a roaster. It was an origin I like. It was from a roaster I hadn't tried before but wanted to try. 20 minutes later, that coffee actually arrived. So does this experience resonate with everyone here? You're in a great cafe. You haven't tried a coffee. You haven't had a coffee that day. You're excited about trying something new and different. You order, you pay, you sit down, you chat to your friend, catch up on messages, glance up in anticipation of your coffee coming, see no signs of it coming, and go back to what you're doing. Meanwhile, your friend's espresso has arrived, and they are happily sitting there enjoying it, savoring, reflecting on the joys of coffee. You're, on the other hand, are parched, salivating, bleary-eyed and thick-headed. Okay? A desperate voice inside your head is saying, "Give me coffee." Okay. 20 minutes later, your coffee arrives. It is placed in front of you in a server with an empty cup. The barista rushes back to make the next coffee. You taste it. It is good, but now you're a bit pressed for time. Your friend finished their coffee 10 minutes ago and is ready to leave. You notice their subconscious, twitchy, alert demeanor. There's no time to savor the blackcurrant flavors, syrupy body, and caramelized brown sugar sweetness. Instead, you walk away with the taste of disappointment in your mouth. So that was obviously a slight exaggeration, but I thought I'd sort of bring you along on that journey with me. Obviously, when you receive this kind of experience, you're not a happy customer. Okay, it lacks barista engagement, which is kind of the point of a brew bar. You don't learn much about the coffee. Your friend's coffee arrives separately, which isn't great customer service. It took too long. I think we're all happy to wait a little while for a brewed coffee, but 20 minutes, that's slightly too long. And you're unlikely to share this experience with friends in a positive light. You're not going to go and rave about the coffee because the whole experience was disappointing. It's also just not profitable. So let's just assess the sort of performance of this business. Now, what we know is that the coffee costs £4 and the barista's being paid around £8 an hour. So if we're targeting labour at 30%, £8 divided by 30% is £27. And it sort of should be generating a profit of £4 an hour. So, but it requires that barista to be making 6.7 drinks within that hour. So that's your target. It's a good way to assess whether the bar you're setting up, whether the operation you're setting up is actually going to be profitable. In this case, however, the barista is making 3 coffees in an hour. So it's one every 20 minutes. Revenue is £12. Labour costs is 67%, and it works out to a net loss of about sort of £2.60. So the question you should be asking with brew bars is how you can make the experience really worthwhile. What is it that you want to offer your customers, and how do you create that experience for them? Is it with technology? Is it with the way the service is set up? What is it that you're actually trying to offer? So this takes us to customer experience. Customer experience was a theme, I think, of probably 4 World Brewer Championship finalists this year in the WBCs. It's very, very important. The customer experience, it's the final piece of our story. We have to create a business where customers value the product that we're selling and everything about that business. So it's about knowing your market. When you set up a cafe in an area, you need to know who your customer is going to be. You need to know enough of those customers are going to be there. You need to give them a reason to come back, okay? Regulars are the heart and soul of a cafe business. You need a lot of people and you need them to come back regularly. And you also have to have multiple products that they want to buy, okay? So you want to give them an opportunity to experience the whole range of your menu. Just to draw that example out, if you want to be a very specialized coffee business and you're only going to have coffee on the menu, the majority of customers want to eat something when they have coffee. So what products can you provide that are going to make them come to you when they're hungry as well as when they want good coffee? So again, we can illustrate this, and this is really simple. Your market size, the regularity or frequency with which customers come to you, and the average transaction value. So average transaction value is the basket size. So it's with the number of customers who come into your store, it's pretty much on average how much they spend each. And if we multiply those together, we get a revenue figure. So in the top example, you have 1,000 customers, they come once, they spend £2, it's £2,000. If you have 1,000 customers, they come twice, they spend £2, it's £4,000. So it has a massive impact on the performance and revenue of your business. Sorry. Is that clear for everyone? So, profitable business. It is about revenues being greater than expenses. It's about being true to your vision and values and designing the kind of business that you want to create, but ensuring that those revenues are going to be greater than the expenses, but also that the customers who are coming in are going to be happy with the experience. They're going to want to come back. And if you do all these things, then you should have a profitable business.
Now we have some time for questions, if anybody has any questions. Well, I do. How long did it take for Taylor Street or your first cafe to become profitable?
It was profitable in an operating level within the first sort of 6 months or so. We were lucky. We also had basically the first cafe we set up was just an espresso bar, and so it's just an espresso bar. It allowed us to be really focused around coffee quality. It was a concession in someone else's store, so it was very cheap to set up. We only had to make great coffee, great tea. We didn't have to worry about any food. We didn't have to sign a lease. It was a great way to get the business off the ground. But also meant overheads were very low, and it meant that profitability was easier to achieve. But it was also supposed to be paying the wages of a number of people, and it wasn't going to be generating enough revenue to sustain the number of people who were sort of invested in the business.
I'm just going to keep asking questions if you don't have any. I can run with the mic. Okay, we have one here.
I think I'm loud enough. What do you think about opening different sizes of branches? So starting with whatever 60 people store, and then going back to 8 people store, 10 people, and the next one is 200. What do you think about? Should it be the same system everywhere?
Yeah, sure. I might just clarify that question. So when you say, so the question is about the number of people working in the store? Oh, number of customers. Okay. Yeah, sure. So number of covers. So when you have a business and you have multiple formats, so from sort of small format, small covers, say three or four covers versus 60 covers, the rules change. So if you have a small format shop, you're going to be doing a lot of takeaway coffee, and you need to make sure that the market's there for takeaway coffee. So there's no point in opening a small format shop in a quiet village somewhere, because people want to come and they want to sit in the cafe. But so you choose the space for the market that's in that area. And but as a business itself, it's fine to have multiple formats. But you'll find that you have a niche and you specialize in different formats. So.
Now, you were saying about the importance of knowing your market. Do you have any tips or of ideas? How have you done kind of market research when you're looking for opening a new shop? How to know the local market?
It's incredibly difficult to work out your market. It's kind of like sort of finger in the air. I think it helps once you've opened up a few shops and you know an area. It also helps once you've kind of tested a few different things out. With Taylor Street, we were Australian. We kind of knew that Australians would like our coffee, so we wanted to open in areas where there were Australians. So that was the some extent of our market research initially. But if you know your area, you'll get an idea as to whether it's going to work. Unfortunately, that's where the risk is, but it's also where the returns are if you're lucky. There is of course market research you can pay for, but it's quite expensive and it's pretty hard to extrapolate from that. But you can also get city data, demographic studies, and everything. So,
questions?
Do you have like a strategy for your baristas to be like more efficient when they brew a coffee, to not be like 20 minutes, take 20 minutes for it?
So how to brew coffee faster than 20 minutes a cup? You were kind of describing my brewer's cup competition once. Yeah. That's why I stick with the barista.
Yeah, there's a number of strategies. It's actually a few ways to approach that. Okay, one is operational. So, if you want to do a brew bar, set the brew bar up so you can work really quickly at efficiency. So that means creating your recipes, knowing your coffee, creating your recipes, making sure your equipment's maintained properly, having everything to hand. That's important. My critique of, I guess, brew bars and manual brewing is that it's often quite inconsistent. And I think that's always a challenge. So the other way to think about it is maybe investing in technology. So you've got some really cool single cup brewers on the market now, or small batch filter brewers. I'm a big fan of those. You can get really amazing coffees. You can brew them consistently and produce that coffee a lot faster. And then you can use that time while that coffee's brewing to actually talk to customers and explain why that coffee is special. So I'm a fan of that. When it comes to espresso, there's all sorts of things you can do. I think probably that the biggest challenge we faced, and this was mostly at Harris Hoole, was actually making speed of service relevant to a barista, so making it meaningful and helping them to understand why they need to be thinking about serving customers as quickly as possible without sacrificing quality in any way. And so we did a whole bunch of work on doing that in terms of the way bars are arranged, but also just the sort of the customer focus and how important it is for a customer who's coming into your shop with on what we call different customer journeys, and they're in a hurry. They've just come out of a tube. They've had a horrible experience with their commute. The kids have made them late. They've got to get to a meeting. All these things. You've got to sort of put yourself as a barista into the mindset of your customer, and in doing that, you then become much more adaptable to working at speed or focusing on being as fast as you can, and again without sacrificing quality. And we can actually make coffee very quickly if we're thinking carefully about how to do it.
I think we have time for still a few more.
How long did it take for you to open your second shop? I mean, was it the biggest step to have the second shop, and was it much easier after that, or was it quite, the same to open shop by shop?
So I can tell you it doesn't actually get easier to open shops, I don't think. with Taylor Street, the way we were, when we first set up Taylor Street, we were going to just go down this sort of concession model and basically rent space from other retailers and set up bars. So we wanted to do something like 10 espresso bar concessions in other people's shops in the first year, which was something we never achieved. We did 2. So the second shop we set up was a little concession inside of a travel agent, and I moved down to Brighton, and I set up this bar and lived in Brighton for 9 years as a result. But the next store, we set up a couple of other different ones. I think where it gets challenging is when you take on a lease, and then you have to do your shop fit, and there's a lot more work to do there. So securing loans takes a long time. It depends on the state of the building as well. So sometimes you're lucky and you get a place which is you can pretty much move into and put your furniture in and put some fresh paint in there and touch up the electrics and the plumbing and you're done. Other sites they're a bare shell and you've got to do everything. You've got to install all the electrics, all the plumbing, all the mechanical and engineering, and then that's more time consuming and a lot more expensive. So it all just becomes a function of how much money you need to raise and then how long it's going to take you to raise that money, and then you go from there.
All right. I think we have time for about one more.
Is there a part of your business that isn't, where the revenue isn't greater than the expenses? Like you mentioned the brew bar, can it be that you put out your vision and your values through your brew bar, that it doesn't make enough revenue, but that you compensate it with something else?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's kind of, do you have a loss-leading product, a product which is really good for your brand? Where and a brew bar is a great example of this. So if you set the brew bar up in a way that allows you to really promote your coffee and promote the skill of the barista and all these things which are actually meaningful for customers and will get them back in, then it's a worthwhile exercise. And it can be loss leading, but you've then just got to factor in that you need to make more profit from your other products on the menu. So yeah, loss leaders are viable, but they're a marketing cost, and you have to think about where you're going to increase revenue elsewhere or decrease costs to justify it.
And I had one more question about, we're talking mostly about coffee now, but what about food? Do you think food is important as, like many cases, it's mentioned as a good way to raise the average ticket price and just increase the cash flow? So how have you approached food, and would you recommend people serving food at cafes?
Sure. I might just go back to Tim's question quickly, and then I'll come back to yours, Callie. Yeah, food's very interesting. We should talk about food. But I had a loss-leading shop, which was a creative exercise, and it's where Dom works now, but it was Monument. But we set this shop up as like a gallery space for coffee, and everything in there is completely mobile. And you can move the bar to 3 different areas, and we've got water for an espresso machine, 3 different areas. You can move the lighting, so you can feature different parts of the room and whatever coffee you want to serve from there. And it was supposed to be a sort of month-on-month coffee gallery. So when the Brazil coffees were in season, we were featuring those Brazilian coffees, and we had a display up. And one of our baristas had been to a farm, and she had pictures of that farm. And I actually really liked the idea, but our customers in that area weren't as big a fan of the idea as I was, and also I'm not very good at marketing, so we didn't really market it broadly enough to get people from outside of our sort of core market area to come in. So there's an example of a loss leader. It was a whole shop, and we had to change things pretty quickly. Now onto food. So food. London has gone from something like five cafes where you could get a good coffee about 10 years ago to probably about 200 now. It's a massive explosion, and there's a lot of really good coffee. And the thing that is going to differentiate people now in London for coffee is not just having great coffee; it's having really good customer service, and then also fantastic food. So you have to now be that sort of holy trinity of food, service, and great coffee. Food is really challenging because everyone has a sort of base point what they want to pay for food. You're trying to sell them something that's in line with your sort of vision and values for what quality is and how you want to do it. You've also got to you're also sort of anchored to lower price points that competitors are paying or are selling food for. So there is a huge opportunity in food, but there are also some significant higher costs. So if you're setting up a kitchen on site, you've got to have a chef. You've suddenly got to become a different business manager. You've got to have more knowledge. Your costs of goods sold, your sort of those margins there change slightly. And creating menus and your staff management, your people management has to change because chefs are a challenging breed of people.
All right, thank you very much, Andrew. That was awesome.